Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Product in LA podcast. I'm your host, Ethan Cole, and this is an opportunity to shine the spotlight on some of the exceptional technology leaders we have as part of the LA community. Our guest today is Rhys Quirk.
Hey, hey Ethan, how's it going?
It's going great, Rhys. I'm super excited to have you here. It's going to be a fun one.
Super pumped to be here. Thanks for having me here.
It's awesome. We'll chat with you one second, but Product in LA wouldn't be possible without the support of a couple places. The first is Uruit. That's URUIT.com. They're a digital product development agency with over 15 years of experience helping US based companies build web and mobile apps by scaling their teams with highly skilled professionals from Latin America. With expert full stack developers, UX and UI designers, product managers, strategists, DevOps engineers, architects, machine learning experts, and more. When you work with Uruit, you're getting the collective knowledge of over 150 technology enthusiasts that are part of the Uruit team. To learn more, go to uruit.com. That's URUIT.com. We're also brought to you by the Product Managers Association Los Angeles, available at pma.la. They are the largest professional organization for product and designers in Los Angeles. With more than 3,000 members from over 500 companies, they host monthly meetups, organize peer to peer counseling networks, and have a mentorship program where they connect working product managers with students from underrepresented groups to build a more diverse and better next gen of product people. To learn more, go to pma.la, and to learn about the mentorship program, pma.la/mentorship. Our guest today is Rhys Quirk. Very excited to have Rhys. His present role is actually a free agent. He's one of those who have been impacted by the layoffs of 2022 and 2023. As we'll learn, some very, very strong people have been part of that. His past roles include Senior Director of Product Management at DirecTV. He's also had roles as a product manager at Diversis. And way back in the day, I pulled this one up, he was a sales engineer at Philips.
That's right. Well, Philip Steinlad actually, but yeah, it's that goes way back.
Yeah, I dug deep. And then one interesting fact you might learn about Rhys by perusing his LinkedIn profile. He was an organizer for the LA Product Summit in 2019 that was dedicated to diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, that was a fantastic day, wasn't it? Really enjoyed helping to bring that to life. So this is back in the AT&T days where we were sort of managing an event space, and we pulled together some really awesome speakers and pulled off an excellent event that dug deep into diversity and inclusion and how it impacted product generally, and then obviously how it impacts our lives in general as well, and how important it is for us to be aware of a lot of the issues that exist today around diversity and inclusion.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I think there was 350 people who came together on a Saturday to participate in an event. Yeah, that was one of the highlights of things I've seen in the LA community. So yeah, thank you for your part in making that reality.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
That's great. One of the things we love to do here in Product LA is learn about, the people behind the technology that's being achieved out there, and, about how those people came to be. Rhys, can you tell us about your journey into technology? Was this always a straight shot, or were you, did this kind of, you find your way here from some winding road?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, I took a sort of a journey that took lots of forks in the road, and I wouldn't be here with the skills and experience and the value that I have today without taking some of those forks. And I feel very blessed and lucky in my life to be able to have taken part in so many different roles, throughout the course of my life. And it's interesting because like going back to kind of growing up, I feel like I had really great mentors, even though I didn't know what a mentor was back then, with people like my grandfather, for example, who was it's now Western Power, but back then it was SEQA, the State Electrical Commission of Western Australia. And he was one of the accountants. I don't know what level he got to. Maybe he was the director of accountancy there or something like that. But he was one of the people that saw the wave of digital transformation
Mm.
way back, before it was even a thing. This is back in the early 1980s, And interestingly enough, he was one of the people that instituted, digital and computer-based systems for their accounting software back in the day. And what that meant was that, whenever we visited Grandpa's house, he had a Commodore 64. And what did that mean? That meant games
Yeah.
for a 5-year-old and an 8-year-old. And but it also meant that, he was actually programming in basic language, believe it or not, back in
Wow.
the day. And that really inspired me to, at the early age of kind of 8, to get involved in writing my own, like, pick a path type basic programming games and that sort of thing. Obviously, the blockbuster games were fun as well. You had Batman and Summer Games and all these types of things on Commodore 64. I mean, this is going way back, and I'm sure some of your born in the 90s and noughties listeners would just be scratching their heads saying, "What the heck is he talking about?" To Google it, Commodore 64. But
One
that
of the original computers that were out there, one of the
original.
original personal computers people
Yeah,
had
and
access
I
to.
think it was I think it was called the Commodore 64 because it only had 64 bits of memory. I mean, we're talking about gigabytes of memory on any machine or any device these days. So this is going way back when you had like a disk drive, and you would, load the disk drive. You would load it using commands. You would load that into memory. Maybe it took a few disks in order to get to the game that you wanted to play, or to the computer program you wanted to run at the time. But it was such an exciting time because it was just so, it was such a burgeoning technology. And, kind of that sort of sparked an energy and, an interest that lasted a lifetime. So that sort of moved into owning an x86, and then a 286 and a 486 and a Pentium. This is all very PC, so
Yeah.
apologies to the Mac
But
people.
that's a lot of what there was back in it. I mean,
Yeah,
there was the Apple II, I guess, but yeah, I remember, the 386, the 486
yeah, yeah.
living in my family room
It
back
was
in the day.
It seemed like most families at the time sort of, if they could afford it, sort of adopted bringing the family computer in. and
Right.
and then there'd be, there was it's two younger brothers and a younger sister, so we're all squabbling over the time that we could spend on the computer, sort of.
Yeah.
And so, interestingly, I sort of took a path towards engineering. I did computer technology in high school, and then moving on from there, took computer systems engineering at Curtin University of Technology in Perth in Western Australia. And one of the reasons that even happened was because, I had an uncle who said, "Oh, you're thinking about doing computer science? Well, don't you think you should actually get involved in the actual microchip designs and microcontrollers and programming of microchips and so on?" And I was like, "That sounds kind of interesting." He's like, "Yeah, you could work on an oil and gas refinery." And I'm like, okay." But that was kind of in my head at the time.
And
Um,
that's big in Western Australia,
and it's
right?
huge in Western
Yeah.
Australia. So I mean, we have giant gas platforms, the gas shelves up northwest of Western Australia, Dampier and Port Hedland and those places. And so that was kind of, grew up in a mining town and in a gas town, natural gas town. And so that's what's going through your head. Oh, I think maybe I'll be working on a gas platform with control systems or something. So that was kind of in the back of my mind. And, you could make a decent living and, have a comfortable life, et cetera, doing that. Fast forward to kind of the end of computer systems engineering, completed the degree, took my time doing it, met some fantastic people along the way that I ended up, hanging out with and living with in the end in Germany. But going back,
In
I'll,
Germany.
I'll I'll come back to that in a minute. But
Okay.
these were people that were studying mechanical engineering in a university of Aachen, and then,
Okay.
kind of doing the Curtin University, the Aachen University of Technology. That's not the name of the university, but we did sort of a swap program with them. And that was fantastic to hang out with those guys. And um, you know uh, that kind of, hanging out with those folks, and really kind of like hanging out with them, and learning the things that I learned from them and from a mechanical engineering perspective was also interesting too. So there's kind of this computer and control systems and so on sort of background. I finished my degree having worked for a Bluetooth startup at the time, and
Okay.
which was all about interoperability systems, and it was way ahead of its time. I mean, we had mathematics PhDs who were designing, Bluetooth coverage patterns in 2002. Like this is way before Bluetooth was like ubiquitous on every device. And the idea there was that you could bring these interoperability communications tools and services and software into any business. So, you could essentially have a little headset that sits on your ear and you could walk around anywhere in the office and be connected to the digital network that could then take advantage of the low cost of digital voice over IP, which was in and of
Huh.
itself very emergent and new kind of technology at the time
Especially in 2002.
in
Yeah. Voice over
2002.
IP. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was all the sort of the background. So pretty heavy tech, lean, and then like I said, sort of finished that up. Decided to move to London in the United Kingdom,
Okay.
and landed a job there with Philips Dynalite. They were Dynalite at the time before they got bought out by Philips, and they provide um, uh, building control systems, and lighting control systems. So think like large buildings with timer controls, passive infrared sensors, touch screens on the walls, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Bringing all of that together so that you can harness energy, and you can make the energy work better for you, obviously. And so this was kind of very early days, back way before sustainability was even a word that people bounced around.
Right.
But the big driver there was like cost down. So you could save significant lighting costs by turning your lights off at various points of the night, and taking advantage of natural daylight and that sort of thing. So I actually started there as a training and sales ish supervisor. So I I was as a 23-year-old fortuitously racing around
London.
London
Yeah. I got
and
a boy from Perth now in
a boy
London at
from Perth
23.
and
Yeah.
London and all through Western Europe, training people in Norway, in Oslo and Norway, on how to use the systems
I
in
mean,
in audiovisual system integration applications and so on. So fantastic job for a 23-year-old. Did that for a couple of years,
yeah.
and then kind of worked my way back to Australia. Worked for them for a number of years, and then continued on in Sydney with Dynalite for a while, and then made the switch. Actually, I was kind of interestingly enough, I was working quite closely with lighting designers at the time, with a company called Lincoln Scott, and who I think were bought out by WSP Group, but I may be wrong about that. Fact check me. But at the time there was a big move into sustainability and thinking about how you could make buildings more sustainable. And so part of what Lincoln Scott did at the time was, they had sort of a traditional building engineering group with lighting people, power people, energy, HVAC folks, so heating, ventilation, air conditioning, etc. But then they also had this sort of specialist lighting design team as well, and that was the team who I worked with very closely, as a lighting control guy, I guess you could call me. I was technically my name. I was a sales manager, but I essentially helped to pull together the designs and specifications. So I kind of provided them a somewhat pseudo sales and engineering, like sort of consulting role. They ended up liking me so much and wanting to work with me so much that they brought me on as a building engineer. And so
Oh, wow.
there's Reese, who's sort of had a very hardcore technical background, writing code, teaching people how to write code for lighting control systems,
Right.
then now working on building sites and commercial building sites and helping design buildings and integrated systems. So it was fun times, and interestingly, this is kind of taking things full circle. The 2008 crash happened, and bam, instantly the commercial building industry, completely fell out.
Okay.
And I found myself sitting on a beach, paid a reasonable severance package, being able to like sort of rethink where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, which is kind of interesting because it's sort of full circle
Yeah, yeah,
today to
no,
some extent. And so, so I got to sit down on a beach and think about like, what do I really enjoy doing? And when I was back in my uni days, my college days, for the Americans here, I I would go in very late at night and work for a small kind of I guess these days you would call them a digital agency, but back then they were a full service internet agency. You know,
okay,
they'd offer domain names and web hosting, and but they'd also like, actually write websites. And so one of the websites that I helped them build was a day trading website, and so I would help code websites back in ASP, if anyone remembers that,
that's
like
great.
natural ASP language, with with server side statements and HTML all cobbled together. So I was doing that at night, and then going to university during the day, and so that was kind of like I was bringing in some bread and making some money
Yeah,
at nighttime, and I thought about like how sort of fun and interesting it was to kind of bring digital experiences to people, and particularly more engaging and interactive experiences. So after sort of humming and harring about it on the beach for a while, I ended up joining a digital agency based in Crow's Nest in Sydney, where I was
okay,
based.
nice.
And they actually went on to win a bunch of awards that I was a part of. So,
Oh, nice.
this is back in the days where Flash programming was still kind of a thing,
Right.
and so you could animate and create really interactive experiences. And so one of the things that I was at the time very proud of was being involved in the 80 Acres wine release, which was their sustainable wine product. And it was made with glass bottles that were made of less material and very easily recyclable, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the things they wanted to do was to create a highly interactive and engaging website that wasn't just a standard kind of greenwash. And by greenwash I mean like just throwing lots of like pretty plants and green things on the screen.
Yeah,
This
just saying it's sustainable just for the namesake, but not actually
right,
doing it with their hearts in it.
right, exactly. And so I got together with that team and we looked at how can we create a really engaging and innovative experience that's kind of like a tool and a learning tool for not only kind of the actual product itself, obviously, because we still want to sell a product, but also like how they develop the product and what that product was really all about from a sustainability standpoint. And so that was fantastic because we got to develop literally on the back of I hear this all the time, a back of the napkin, but I literally
Yeah,
wrote the original storyboard for this site on the back of a napkin.
that's
And
awesome.
it had, like a cat with a seed, and the seed like grew, and it was in a woodland, and it was sort of a sepia motif. And it was kind of like a really cool kind of forest scene as opposed to like a rainforest with lots of green everywhere. It was
Yeah.
kind of like brown, but it still had like elements of green and so on. And so this little seedling grew, and as you clicked on the leaves, it grew and grew and grew
Oh,
and gave you more and more information about the product and the sustainable aspects of it. So that was fantastic. It was really fun to do and fun to work on, and kind of led into more of that type of work where I was involved in yeah, like digital experiences. So from e-commerce websites all the way through to like, more corporate and custom websites and that sort of thing.
that's awesome. And
Yeah.
how does that translate into kind of what you're looking at today?
Yeah. So great question. So I think, if I was to kind of quickly draw a connector between what I've done most recently and what I finished up there in Sydney, it was really around I love the idea of developing a product, developing concepts, and developing like thinking through innovative ideas that could bring a product concept to life. And so, I guess to kind of draw a straight line to where I'm at today, what I really want to sort of do, and if you looked at my LinkedIn profile, you'd see senior director of product and product management at DirecTV, where I was working on streaming products. Um, it was really around developing an idea into the inception of concepts and product and
Mm,
strategy, and then developing high level roadmaps and designs and execution plans at a very high level, and helping the business DirecTV at the time to actually execute on it with all of the product teams we worked with the content teams we worked with, engineering, etc. And so I think to kind of bring it full circle, what I'm looking to do now is sort of positioning myself as someone that can help small to medium sized businesses who perhaps can't afford, a chief product officer, CPO,
right.
or a VP of product, or someone like that. But they can, obviously they still need someone that can help them to crystallize and materialize what their product is, and what the vision is, and what the strategy is around it, and so on. And sort of really bring that to life, and from a high level strategy and high level execution standpoint. And part of it might also be helping them to bring together a real kick-ass product team that might comprise of product owners or product managers, and bringing them in place and putting the processes in place, and the product sort of strategy and sort of an approach together that makes sense for them. So that's I think that's really what I'm really looking to do in the future. It's like kind of helping smaller, medium-sized businesses who, like I said, don't have that opportunity to get those sort of high-powered, or not, I shouldn't say high-powered, but like those executive level product people.
Yeah.
They can't afford the salary of someone like that for full time. However, they might be able to take advantage of someone like me who's a gun for hire essentially.
Yeah, and it sounds like a trend throughout your career has been this involvement and passion for innovation. It sounds like it's multiple tracks. You've gone down that road multiple times, whether it's in the lighting space, like you mentioned with the Philips
Dynalite, yep.
Dynalight, with the early days of .asp developer days
Hmm.
for Rhys, and then into the streaming during the streaming wars. It does seem like that's a consistent trend that you've had, and would you say that kind of it's a passion, the innovation, and is it sustainability, innovation, into innovation, or where do those two fit together?
Yeah, I mean, a great question. I think you can't do innovation without having some type of sustainable approach. I mean, there's a lot of talk these days on how you can exit a company and how you can get bought out and all that sort of stuff. There's still got to be some element of sustainability. You can't create a product that vaporizes in a year or 2 years time. The idea is create a product that can scale, and create a product that can meet your customers' needs and delivers true value, and hopefully something that can adapt to an ever changing world, the landscape that shifts every single day. Like, I mean, all you have to do is open up your news for the day and see 10 new generative AI products that have hit the market, and all want to be bought out for billions of dollars. And I'm not like bagging them. I think they're fantastic technology, but I think just like all technology, it's something that I think just needs to be thought through carefully around how you can take advantage and make best use of the technology, as opposed to kind of cramming it in and thinking that it'll be a solve for all.
Yeah, no, and as the recording of this is still in the heyday of Chat GPT. Is definitely the
Right.
still the early days. Hopefully this podcast will be around so we have to keep this evergreen. But this is definitely the top of mind, and I agree with you. I think that it's just scratching the surface. I think that there are a number of fads that have come through technology in the last 10 years. Well, time will tell on this one. It's interesting. I think there'll be a number of players out there, but it does feel like something's a little different right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the way that I think about it, and maybe I'm being too linear, but is that you know technology tools since the caveman days have been there to help support humans. From the
Yeah.
early days of figuring out fire, and that we could be warm for the night and scare off the predators, all the way through to autonomous vehicles today that are self-driving and don't require well require very little human intervention these days, hopefully some. But I think as you think about all of these new technologies, I think there are tools to help us assist us, and the most important thing I think to think about is how can we actually leverage or adapt these technologies and tools into our everyday lives so that they make us better human beings at the end of the day for everybody and for everyone's benefit. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that and get really hyped, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's like it's fun to be in on the hype and to see all the cool stuff that's happening from a technology perspective. But I think about even in my streaming experience where we got really hyped up about augmented reality, and
Mm,
we developed this augmented reality streaming experience, and we were super pumped about it. It was quite a substantial and sort of significant endeavor, and but I think unfortunately, we hadn't hit critical mass market adoption, and as a result,
yeah.
people aren't walking around right now with the Warby Parker type glasses with an augmented reality experience
Or the Google Glass,
or the Google
the
glasses.
original
Yeah,
Google
that's
Glass from like
exactly right.
2008.
So I think right place, right time, right experience, like these types of things need to be thought through so that we're thinking carefully about what types of technologies we're bringing to bear that are applicable to average everyday people and enriching their lives.
That's it's an amazing note to end on, or at least until our last question, Reese. But we always like to keep it grounded here in Los Angeles. This is product in LA, and
Mhm.
the last question I always love to ask my guests is, what is the most LA thing that's happened to you? It could be product related or not.
I mean, and this is probably going to be the same as a lot of folks responding to this question, but it is a celebrity thing. We're on a drive to Ojai, and we stopped at this, podunk Mexican restaurant, and it was beautiful food. Loved it. But as we were walking in, I literally bumped into Natalie Portman and her family.
That's
For
incredible.
those that can't see me, or won't see me, I'm 6'4", so it's pretty easy to bump into people accidentally. And so we did. We bumped into Natalie
Natalie
Portman and
Portman.
her family, and it was really fun. She was very nice. I think we only spoke about 5 words, but she was there with the family. So obviously we don't want to cause a big scene, but it was fantastic to see someone that you'd seen on the big screen, like in an everyday situation. It kind of did really materialize living in LA.
Oh, that's amazing. Actually, I once ran into Natalie Portman, but it was like back in the dorm days, back when she was in a dorm. I was visiting a friend, and she was walking up the hallway. This is back when back from the professional days, not when she was like in the Jedi movies in
Right.
Black Swan. But that's incredible, and she's one of those people you would recognize if you saw her out
Oh
there.
yeah, unmistakable. Yeah, very very beautiful person.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I love that about LA. That's not even on LA. That's probably the road to Ojai, but
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Um, I want to just thank you again, Reese, for joining us. This is a great conversation. Fun to talk to another technologist here in Los Angeles, and for those out there, Reese is a proven tech leader who's open to helping people innovate. So please reach out to him. He's available at Rhys Quirk on LinkedIn.
That's right. Yep. Look me up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and also like to thank our supporters again. This is PMALA, that's PMA.LA, and Uruit, that's URUIT.com. Want to thank you all for listening to us, and we'll see you next time on Product in LA.